Echo, The Vein of Gold, A Journey to Your Creative Heart by Julia Cameron. And we are still in the Kingdom of Story, and I'm reading Cinema Self starting on page 95. Some of you may be familiar with an old Danny Kaye movie, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. In the film, Kaye plays a milquetoast son dominated by an overbearing mother. His lackluster life is enlivened only by his persistent creative fantasies, in which he, Walter Mitty, is secretly a hero. This outsized, spiffed up, heroic version of him is what I would call a cinema self. Very often, while it seems like a pipe dream, our cinema self is really an expression of our vein of gold, a mock up version of a larger, grander self that is straining to be born. I once had the opportunity to watch two people whom I knew be transformed before my eyes into cinema selves. In my 20s, when I was working at the Washington Post during Watergate, I knew both Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward. We all knew them. They were these two nice guys who were just a little obsessed. Carl and Bob, the newsroom thinking went, those two are a little bit crazy. A little bit later, the thinking went, Carl and Bob, those two are a little bit crazy, but they might be right. Still later, the thinking went, Carl and Bob, those two are right. Still, nothing quite prepared the newsroom for Carl and Bob. Those two are Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford. From their everyday reportorial selves, they were suddenly glamorized into cinema selves. I remember the day that Robert Redford first came to the newsroom. It was a good thing there was no fast breaking news crisis because the telephone operators were very busy gawking at Mr. Redford, the glamorized cinema version of Bob Woodward. After the cameras quit rolling, after the office was back to the clack and grind of the daily newspaper, a little cinematic magic still clung to Carl and Bob. If they weren't exactly movie stars themselves, they were more definitely star reporters. Their cinema selves had lent some indelible ink to them after all. All of us have a self that we live with as our normal everyday self. That self is probably bigger than it used to be and smaller than we wish it would be. In other words, there are many days when we wish we could be larger than we currently are. Like Alice with the magic mushroom, our moods, we keep getting larger and smaller. One day we are up to making a very tough phone call. Another day we shrink from that task. It's all relative. We say on the days when we feel relatively large, we take risks to expand our lives. On the days when we feel relatively small, we retreat to the safety of a smaller version of ourselves. Like Walter Mitty, we daydream about what our lives would be like if only we were able to live our larger, more cinematic selves. Here you are asked to play with what I call cinema self. Cinema self is a larger than life, idealized version of you, the kind of you that looms from the silver screen. It is a glossier, more daring, more glamorous than you are, but it is based on you, as you actually are. You are the prototype from which this character is drawn. You might want to think of this in terms of what seminal creativity teacher Barbara Sher, her best-selling book, Wishcraft, is a classic self-actualization tool. And it's spelled wishcraft, like Wishcraft. Okay, and she calls it a style search. The questions are designed to let you think about what what constitutes glamour and expansion to you. Task, cinema self. Please fill in the following. Number one, what kind of car does cinema self drive? Perhaps several. Is it a classic Mercedes convertible sedan, a vintage Volkswagen Bug, a 65 Chevy truck? Number two, what is Cinema Self's signature article of clothing? A bomber jacket? Carol Lombard pajamas? Number three, where does Cinema Self live? Town, country, both? Number 4, what is Cinema Self's spiritual practice? Tai Chi, retreat at Christ of the Desert, a goddess circle? What 3 places has Cinema Self loved visiting that you haven't been to yet? Tibet, Texas, the Costa del Sol? 6, what is the title of Cinema Self's memoirs? Travels with a Restless Mind, Adventures of a Peaceful Heart, Reflections of an Avid Angler? Number 7, what is Cinema Self's relationship to animals? None, thank you. Approximately the same as the San Diego Zoos. 8, what 3 adjectives are usually used to describe Cinema Self? Charismatic, childlike, adventuresome? 9, what is Cinema Self's relationship to friends? A wide ranging circle of acquaintances? A, a tight cluster of intimates? What might you call a loner? What you might call a loner? Oh, sorry about that. Number 10, who plays Cinema Self in the movie? One star or several for different ages? Yourself or an established cinema presence? Okay, and that was the end of that section. It was pretty short, so I'm gonna go ahead and read the quotes on the side this time. What if we smashed the mirrors and saw our true face? Elsa Gidlow. There are no mistakes. What happens during the process of making something is sacred and organic. Vicky Noble. Art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. Thomas Merton. Okay, I don't really have much to say about this section except for I'm nervous to like think of an expensive life because then that like opens up like the idea of like disappointment. But I'm gonna go for it. Okay, bye for now.